Hello viewers, and for the first time since August of 2013, welcome to the latest installment of the LOTR LCG Progression Series. My name is Mitch, also known as the 10th Nazgul, and joining me today is Matthew.
Hello everyone.
So, Matthew, it's been a while, but why don't you catch us up to where we left off in the Against the Shadows cycle?
After saving the villagers near Amon Din, the heroes have joined with Lord Alcaron to assist Lord Boromir's forces in retaking Osgiliath. At the army encampment, you are thrilled to again meet Lord Faramir, and you are introduced to his brother Boromir, eldest son of Denethor, and renowned hero of Gondor. Nestled on both sides of the Anduin lies Old Osgiliath, a crossroads city bridging the Great River. In the long war against Mordor, control of Osgiliath has been a critical piece, one that Boromir means to reclaim. As the sun breaks over the mountains of shadow, beating at the still river fog, the great horn of Gondor sounds from Boromir's lips. As its sound fades into the morning, the men of Gondor cry out as one. They cry for battle and the ruin of foes, their swords lifted to the sky. Come death and come honor, the newest battle for Osgiliath begins.
Alright, so today we're going to be playing the Assault on Osgiliath, the fourth adventure pack of the Against the Shadow cycle, and in the words of Fantasy Flight Games, it's a battle to liberate the ancient capital of Gondor from the forces of Mordor, and to represent Gondor's struggle to drive the enemy from every last corner of the ruined city. We, the players, are instructed to take control of Osgiliath locations as they leave play. So that's the premise here. Instead of simply exploring locations and discarding them, we're going to be taking control of them. Something we're going to have to look out for is shadow effects in particular, becoming more and more powerful as we control more locations. So we raise our threat by more, the enemies attack harder, or their base attributes are bolstered in some way. But before we get too in-depth into this scenario, why don't we go ahead and take a look at our player decks. So starting with myself, I'm going to be running something that is an extremely far cry from almost anything else I've run throughout the entirety of the Progression Series. I'm going to be running a mono tactics deck. So I've got Baragond as a really solid defender, and I'm going to try and load him up with Gondorian Shield and Spear of the Citadel as soon as possible. To complement that attachment, I've got Thalon to put damage on enemies as they're revealed, and I've got Legolas, not so much for his ability, but mostly to take advantage of effects like Hands Upon the Bow to be shooting into the staging area. So this deck is all about direct damage. I've got Goblin Cleaver, I've got effects like Quick Strike to make sure that I can get attacks off before our enemies do, just because we're going to have to deal with nasty stuff like the Haradrim Elite, where they're making extra attacks. So I've got Swift Strike to answer that, and there's just so much nasty, sometimes low HP stuff coming off the encounter deck. I feel like this might end up being a pretty effective deck, but how about yourself, Matthew?
Well, Mitch, longtime viewers of the Progression Series will know that in our Against the Shadow cycle playthroughs, I wanted to switch things up a little bit. In most of the other cycles, in adventures and sagas and all that good stuff, I was mostly playing tactics or a mix of tactics and other things. But in Against the Shadow, we decided to switch things up, and I would not play tactics for any of these 6 quests. And so as you can see, I'm doing Mono Spirit with Glorfindel, Éowyn, and Frodo. I have a host of allies to really make sure that I've got the questing covered between our 2 decks. Typical attachments, Ancient Mathom for some card draw, Light of Valinor, of course, Unexpected Courage, and I think Baragond is probably the best candidate for that. And then the normal sort of events, a Test of Will, Hasty Stroke, and some threat reduction to make sure our threat stays low. So hopefully this is enough to help us retake Osgiliath.
For sure. One of the added benefits, since we're both going to be running mono decks, is the Master's Malice, that really nasty treachery card that there are at least a couple copies in this encounter deck. It's not going to have any effect on us whatsoever, so Before we get too much more in-depth about this scenario, let's take a look at our one and only quest card, Retake the City, and this instructs us that each player chooses one enemy and one unique location and adds them to the staging area and then shuffles the encounter deck. So what's very unique about this scenario, and what could certainly add some replayability to it or make it just differently approachable by different decks, is that we determine what locations and what enemies we're going to be dealing with. Our first location that we've picked is the West Gate, which has a very strange action that allows you to search the encounter deck and discard pile to put locations into play, something that we definitely want to avoid based on the unique win condition of this scenario, and like so many other locations in this encounter deck, it's got this forced effect. So after the player who controls the West Gate lets an attack go undefended, we return the West Gate to the staging area. So if we've explored this location, if one of us has control of it, if we do an undefended attack, we have to explore it all over again. Our second location is the Ancient Harbor with a lower threat value, and it's explored in a very peculiar way. So it's combat action, exhaust a hero to put a progress token there, and again, if we do an undefended attack, it returns to the staging area. And our thoughts on this are, if we have heroes left over, we might as well chip away at the Ancient Harbor. For our enemies, there is a huge variety of which to draw from the encounter deck, and for our first attempt, we're actually going with one of the really nasty ones. So it's 6 attack, it's 3 hit points, but what we really wanted to avoid is this When Revealed effect, which is add the topmost orc enemy from the encounter discard pile to the staging area. So in attempt to avoid some sort of nasty surprise later on, since its engagement cost is so high, I figure it might not hurt to start with this guy in play. I think there are only 2 copies in the encounter deck, so yet another When Revealed we won't have to worry about saving a test of will for. But that is pretty much that. We've flipped our quest card to Phase 1B, and it reads quite simply, player card effects cannot place progress tokens on locations in the staging area. So you'll note we're not going to be relying on Asphaloth, and of course, when an Osgiliath location leaves play as an explored location, the first player takes control of it. And a very unique win condition here, no progress tokens required if the players control all Osgiliath locations in play at the end of the round. They have won the game. So we'll have to see if we end up winning early, if we win very late, or if the encounter deck just crushes us outright. But with that said, I suppose we're ready to start our very first turn. Why don't we go ahead and ensure that our decks are shuffled, and let's draw our opening hand of 6 cards. And I definitely have to say right off the bat, I am none too impressed with what I ended up with, so I'm going to go ahead and take a mulligan straight away. And how about yourself?
Mine is interesting, but I think that I'll hold on to it.
Okay. And I'm very glad to see my second hand here is quite a bit better, so I suppose with that said, why don't we go ahead and get things started? So, resources, draw 1 card. Right away, I'm going to go ahead and attach a Gondorian shield to Baragond, and I will spend 1 resource in order to affix a Rivendell blade to Legolas. And normally I look and see how many enemies we have that are greater than 2 defense. I do have a companion blade in case Glorfindel might want one at some point, but for the moment, I'm going to go ahead and slap out one of my direct damage allies here. So hopefully we see some Uruk soldiers in our near future. And how about yourself?
I'm going to pay 1 for a Light of Valinor.
Awesome.
I will pay 1 for a Sylvan Refugee.
Your favorite.
Yeah, and then I think that'll be it for me.
Okay, great. that Light of Valinor is already going to help us with exploring the ancient harbor, I hope. So, for questing, I'm starting to feel a little bit like you. I'm only going to commit Thalon.
Okay, well, I will commit the team.
Alright, so what is that? Grand total of 11?
Mm-hmm.
Good lord. And here I thought we were up against a lot of threats. So grand total of 12 committed to the quest. I don't have any staging area hijinks at the moment, but let's see what we reveal. So just ensuring that our encounter deck is indeed shuffled. Encounter card number 1 is going to be a location, the Old Bridge.
Okay.
So this is very expensive. Neither of us have resource acceleration. We're going to end up having to invest 12 resources in this location to explore it.
Okay.
And undefended attacks return it to the staging area.
Yikes.
Encounter card number 2 is...
Oh my.
Very, very nasty. So it does take 1 damage from Thalon. It's the Orc Vanguard. While it's in the staging area, resources cannot be spent from the resource pools of heroes who have a leadership, spirit, or lore resource icon.
Okay.
So we probably want to try and get rid of this as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Well, that is a very nasty start. Looks like we're up against 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 threat. We're going to end up making 2 progress that doesn't actually do anything. In actuality, you probably need not even put it on the card. In regard to traveling, let's see. We do have 1 location that we can travel to. So I suppose let's make the West Gate our active location.
Okay.
In regard to engagement, we don't have to engage with any of these enemies, but with Orc Vanguard in play, we're effectively playing a 1-player game.
Yeah, pretty nasty.
So, in order to scrape together enough combined attack strength to deal with this character, why don't we go ahead and put him in play with you?
Sounds like a plan.
And then let's do 1 shadow card, hoping that it's not another Orc Vanguard Shadow Chain.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go ahead and defend with Baragond. He doesn't have a spear or anything else attached. And let's see what that shadow card is. It's going to be attacking enemy gets +0, but this is an example of one of those scaling shadow effects. So if we were to control, say, 2 Osgiliath locations, Baragond would be killed, but he only ends up taking 2 points of damage. And of course, neither of us have healing. I don't have Gondorian Discipline, so it's a little bit of a frightening start to the game here.
Yeah.
But in regard to attacking back, what do you want to do?
Well, I'll commit Glorfindel.
Alright, so Glorfindel and Legolas, its defense drops to 1, Glorfindel deals 3, Legolas deals 3, that is more than enough to kill this enemy. It's discarded, its shadow card is discarded, and that ability triggers to do 2 points on our active location, because we can place progress tokens on locations in the active location slot. And looks like we've survived our first round, so why don't we go ahead and refresh? I'll make you first player. Our turn counter is going to be a little bit screwed up because of an error earlier in the video, but let's draw a card and do our resources.
Okay. I'm going to spend 2 for an unexpected courage for Baragond.
Awesome. I'll take control of that. Again, that HP makes me so nervous. Anything else?
Yep, and then I'll pay 1 for an Ancient Matham on our location here.
Awesome.
And that's it for me.
Okay. For me, I've now got an awesome event where hopefully we end up drawing a Haradrim Elite at some point. Other than that, I think I'm going to spend 1 resource off Baragond, and I suppose I can either do a Companion Blade or I could do a Horn. Maybe I should do a Horn, considering how many resources we're going to need to earn.
I agree.
Yeah, so why don't I go ahead and stick that on, I suppose, Thalon.
Okay.
Alright, and that is going to be it for me.
Okay, for questing, I will again send the team for 11.
Alright, and I'm just going to go ahead and send 1. So grand total of 12 once again. And let's see what we pull for staging. So encounter card number 1 is going to be the Southron Phalanx.
Okay.
So this is a very, very wimpy enemy. Encounter card number 2 is going to be the Master's Malice. So each player chooses one sphere of influence. I will choose Tactics. Each character a player controls that does not belong to his chosen sphere takes 3 damage.
Well, I suppose I will choose Spirit.
That seems wise.
I think so. I think so.
Alright, so I guess that's it. We're going to be up against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total threat. We're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total progress.
Okay.
The first player, which is you,
Yep.
is going to be gaining control of the west gates. Feel free to actually take control of it if you'd like.
Okay.
And looks like Ancient Matham triggered. Anything decent?
Nope, nothing stellar, but hey, it's some cards.
Maybe you're closer to the worthwhile stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Alright, so for travel, we cannot travel, and we cannot travel. For engagement, we've got a weak enemy that is going to be engaging with us.
Okay.
I suppose there's no reason not to take that. Again, it doesn't really matter who takes it. Why don't I toss it over to your side of the table?
Okay.
And then I guess we might as well get rid of some of these Uruk lieutenants while we can. So I will go ahead and pull one down to me.
Okay.
For shadow cards. We dole those out as follows.
Okay.
The Southron Phalanx, I will defend.
Are you going to defend both with Baragon?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was figuring I might as well.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and defend that. Our encounter shadow card is nothing, so his 6 defense tanks that 1 damage like a champ.
Mm-hmm.
While engaged with a player, yeah, so he would have gotten fewer attack strength if he'd have been engaged with me, because he's swinging for 2, but I think the shadow effects here are going to be kinder. So, anyway.
Yeah, I would have said to do the Gondorian Spearman a little late, because then Baragon would have had an extra action for our Ancient Harbor, but not a huge deal.
Yeah, I just definitely don't want to
We could have
lose
lost the
Spearman.
Spearman, in which case I would have lost the Refugee, so it definitely would have been a risky proposition.
Yeah.
But it would have given you 2 resources for the Horn of Gondor, I suppose,
Sure.
as a consolation. Anyhow.
Sure. But in any case, ready Baragon through Unexpected Courage, Uruk Lieutenant attacking for 6. Let's hope his attack doesn't get bolstered. And there is nothing. So
Okay.
glad to see a location gone. And no damage to Baragon.
Okay.
So for attacking back...
Did you want to help me kill this Southron? Or were you going to try and put some damage on your own enemy?
Oh, now I understand why you're saying I should have defended with the Gondorian Spearman.
Yeah.
So, why don't you just go ahead and soften him up, and then
Okay.
that'll make it convenient for next turn.
Okay.
Alright, so Glorfindel is going to end up dealing only 1 point of damage to him. I suppose if I'd have played that second Rivendell Blade on Glorfindel, we wouldn't have to worry about him still being in play, but, you know, by no means is he the most frightening opponent here, so
Right.
that's pretty much that. In regard to my own attack, I'm just going to have Legolas swing, drops the defense to 0, and then 3 is exactly enough to kill our Uruk Lieutenant. So,
In hindsight, I forgot that I control a location, so the Southron actually would have been swinging for 2, which would have killed your
right,
dude.
right. So, in any case, 1 enemy in play, not a big deal.
Nope.
But I guess that is going to bring us to the end of the round. No available hero actions.
Nope.
So, let's refresh.
Okay.
If you'd make me first player, let's do some more resources, and I will draw 1 card. So, right away, for the very first time, I think, in our series, I'm going to go ahead and attach Black Arrow to Legolas. I am not sure that there's really any massively big and beefy enemy that I'll need to kill, but can't hurt to have that additional attack available.
Okay.
I'll strip 1 resource off Baragon, and I'm definitely going to put a Rivendell Blade on Glorfindel.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, I'm going to pay 3 for a Pelargar shipwright.
Alright.
Pelargir shipwright, I should say. And that's it for me.
All right. So looks like we've definitely got willpower covered. I know another thing we thought about was doing a mono lore deck, but then that didn't have quite enough willpower. There's so much good stuff coming out next expansion. It seemed a little premature, but I guess on to questing.
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and commit a grand total of 1.
Okay, I'm going to send, let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm going to leave Frodo up this time. That we hopefully will have some extra hero actions.
All right, so grand total of 13. Let's see what we reveal. So encounter card number 1 is going to be the Orc Arbalesters. So it's going to have archery 2.
Okay.
But you've got extraordinarily low threat. You've got Frodo. We have a ton of heroes that aren't otherwise going to take any damage.
Right.
Encounter card number 2 is going to be the Uruk Soldier. And this is one of the reasons why I was so excited to have Gondorian Spearmen in this deck. So after it attacks and destroys a character, we have to return locations we control if able, but we'll hopefully be able to get around that. So let's see here. We're up against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to end up making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Might as well keep track just to see if we can break 100 or something like that. Once again, we do not have the option to travel. We're going to have to start funneling some resources into the old bridge. Hopefully we'll be able to get rid of that ancient harbor. For engagement, once again, I think I'll take the Uruk Lieutenant. And on second thought, I'm actually going to leave this Uruk Lieutenant in the staging area, and I'm going to pull down these Arbalesters to me. Do you want to optionally engage the Uruks? It doesn't really matter.
No, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, he comes down to you regardless, so
yeah,
doesn't matter.
I suppose, well, not like he would end up getting a shadow card, spoiler alert, but it's probably better that he's engaged with me since I don't have a location I control. But at the beginning of combat, we've got some archery damage, 2, to deal with. We've certainly got a lot of characters to soak that up. I'm not too concerned about undefended attacks at any points. We've got your Pelargir Shipwright, even. That might not be the worst target for that.
Yeah, I'll just put them on him.
That certainly works. And then for combat here, let's distribute some shadow cards. So in this order, I guess right away I'm going to defend that Uruk Soldier with my Gondorian Spearman. So it's going to take 1 damage. It's immediately killed. And let's flip that shadow card. Would have been an attack for 6. Certainly glad to see a card gone that would, make it more likely Baragond would take his last 2 hit points of damage. So that's gone. For the Arbalesters, which are only attacking for 1, it seems silly to do it, but I will defend with my 6 defense hero. No shadow effects, and a nasty treachery surging card we won't have to deal with. So Baragond takes no damage. Unexpected courage to ready him.
Yep.
What do you want to do about your 2-attack enemy?
Well, sadly I don't get Frodo for the Ancient Harbor, but I can defend with him.
Sure. So shadow card is attacking enemy ends up getting +3. So it's going to be a grand total of +5.
Oh, it is indeed a Harad. Right. So 3, so I'll just raise my threat by 3.
Certainly works. Part of why Frodo's in your deck, go figure.
Yeah.
For attacking back, this is a little bit unconventional, but drop its defense to 0. Legolas does 3, and Baragond does 1. So the Arbalesters are killed. And how about you?
We make 2 progress that we don't need, and I will have Glorfindel kill my enemy.
Right, so the board is nearly clear, save for all these locations clogging up our staging area.
Right.
I guess that brings us to the end of the round. Why don't we go ahead and control R to refresh? I'll make you first player. Let's draw card, do resources. before we do our planning, let's just keep in mind that we've got this old bridge, and we have to do planning actions to spend resources to put progress tokens on it. So I'm definitely going to start doing that on my turn.
Okay.
I don't know if you've got
two
anything.
Resources. No, I'll use Frodo's 2 resources and put 1 progress there.
All right. Somehow it doesn't seem like we're getting much in return for our investment, but all right.
Right, but that's what we have to do. And then that sort of leaves me strapped, so I won't... that's it for me.
All right. For me, I think I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will do 2 resources on it, so at least we're halfway.
Okay.
And I've got plenty of cash left to pay for events.
Okay.
I've got an avian ally at some point that could dive bomb into play and combo nicely with the spearman. So, but that's it for me. So.
Okay. So for questing, I'll send whatever I sent last time. Again, leaving Frodo up in hopes that I have some extra hero actions.
All right. So what is that?
12. Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll make it 13 once again, and let's see what we get. Encounter card number 1 is going to be Haradrim Elite, and this is actually just who I wanted to see. So when it enters play, it makes an immediate attack from the staging area against the first player, which is you.
Yikes.
Baragond, however, has Sentinel. I will defend with him, and I'll go ahead and spend 2 resources to do a Swift Strike. So after a character is declared Defender, 2 damage to the attacking enemy.
Nice.
So 2 damage right away. We don't have to deal with that 3 threats. I guess I will give it a shadow card. Let's see what it would have been. So it is killed immediately. Shadow card was another Arbalester.
Yikes, more archer we don't have to deal with.
Right. So that's encounter card number 1. Again, a shame we're not benefiting from the additional progress.
Right.
Encounter card number 2 is going to be add X to the archery total this round. X is the number of locations, so it's going to be a grand total of 1. So to help us remember that, why don't I just put a resource token out here? This will gain Surge because we only control 1 location.
Okay.
It surges to an Uruk soldier. Not a big deal.
No.
So we're up against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threat. We're going to end up making 8 progress, which puts us at 20.
Okay.
All right. So for travel, no option.
Right.
For engagement, I suppose we can certainly leave the lieutenant here. I guess I'll take our Uruk soldier.
Okay.
I will give him 1 shadow card.
So we have archery 1 to deal with, and I will just do threat for Frodo.
Okay. And for the soldier's attack, might as well use my spearman. The soldier is immediately killed. The shadow card, which is discarded, is another location.
Yep.
Glad to see that gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then while we're still in combat, we might as well start using some actions for our ancient harbor.
I'll do Frodo and Glorfindel.
Okay, so I will do 2 heroes, so it's practically explored.
Yep. You can take that resource thing off.
Yeah, let me strip that away. And I guess that's the round, so why don't we go ahead and control R once again.
Okay.
And I'll be first player. Do our resources, and draw 1 card. Still not getting what I'm hoping to see.
Okay.
For planning, let's see. I don't need much in the way of resources, so I will spend 2 to put yet another progress. Whoops, wrong location. I'll put 1 more progress token on the old bridge.
Okay. I suppose that nothing I have needs to be played, really, so I'll go ahead and spend 4.
Alright, and cool thing about that is, as I'm sure you came to the conclusion, let's see, first player gains control of even though you were the one that paid those resources, as soon as an Osgiliath location leaves play, the first player takes control of it. So I'm going to go ahead and take control of the old bridge.
Yeah, and, read the cards, Matthew. I just happened to notice that in the parenthetical here, it says one resource instead if there's another Osgiliath location in play. And the locations we control, I believe, are considered in play, but certainly the Ancient Harbor's in play, so I'm going to get 3 resources back.
Right.
Because I put 3, I did 2 from Glorfindel, 2 from Eowyn, and then I did 2 from Frodo last turn. So I get a few back.
Sure, right. So I guess I totally skipped that myself. So long as there's an Osgiliath location in the staging area. This turn, I think I spent...
All right, staging area.
I think I spent a resource from Thalin and from Baragond. So I'll just use the one off of Baragond. And I'm not really sure what I've invested in regard to resources in the past. So, since I screwed up, I'm just going to leave it at as a handicap to myself. So.
Okay, and since I have some extra resources, I am going, that had I caught it during my planning portion, I would have played an Unexpected Courage on Legolas, so let me go ahead and take care of that.
Awesome. So, great to see that. And, anything else for your planning?
No, that is it for me.
And here I was feeling so good about making video without mistakes. Oh, well.
Well, at least we caught it. It's better than having it pointed out in the comments.
Sure. And as we often say, at least it was working against us instead of for us.
Exactly.
So for committing characters to the quest, I'm thinking 1.
Okay, I'll do my usual and do 12.
Okay. Grand total of 13. Let's see what we pull. Hoping for no locations. Encounter card number 1 is going to be a location if an orc enemy is in play. Progress tokens cannot be placed on Orc War Camp while it's in the staging area.
Okay.
But that doesn't matter because the quest card tells us as much. Encounter card number 2 is going to be an Osgiliath location, Ruined Tower. So if there is one active location, exhaust a character to travel there, and there are now 2 active locations.
It's not too bad.
Battle of Lake Town style.
Yeah.
But we're up against 7, 8, 9, 10 threat. We're only going to make 3 progress this turn. And that is going to bring us to travel.
Okay.
So we might as well travel to Orc War Camp. Yep. And then we might as well exhaust a character to go to the Ruined Tower.
Yeah. So I'll exhaust Frodo.
That certainly works. In regard to engagement, this Uruk Lieutenant is hanging out here. I'm wondering if I were to engage with him and we were to kill him, and I only have a small amount of disaster insurance, that might allow us to win the game next turn.
Okay, well, I certainly have a card that could prevent, or his attack wouldn't be boosted.
Okay, well, then let's definitely do it. So I'll pull him down to me, and I guess that's going to be that. So at the beginning of combat, he'll get 1 shadow card. I will go ahead and declare Baragond as the defender. That shadow card is going to be, if this attack destroys a character, of course it's not going to, 6 attack, does not exceed 6 defense. And for attacking back, I will have Legolas swing, which is going to be exactly enough to kill this enemy. So the enemy is killed. And, of course, now that Legolas has killed an enemy, we get to place 2 progress tokens on our active location buffer. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the Ruined Tower, which means it's going to be fully explored, and I'm going to end up taking control of that location. And we've also got our Ancient Harbor, so while we're still in the combat phase, I suppose...
I'll exhaust Glorfindel.
That certainly works. So our 5th and final progress token goes on that. And then why don't I strip all of those off? The first player gains control of it. And that's pretty much going to bring us to the end of the round. So, taking a look at our current only quest card, it reads, if the players control all Osgiliath locations in play at the end of the round, they have won the game. So, even though we still have an active location, we've managed to make it to the end. So, before we discuss this scenario, why don't you wrap up our story?
The battle finally comes to an end. For a while there is silence. There is no clanging of weapons, no thuds of arrows, no screams of pain, just silence, breathing, and exhausted stares. The bodies of men and orcs litter the streets and waterways of Osgiliath, carrion debris scattered by a hard wind. You pry your fingers from weapons sticky with blood, shoulders aching from forgotten strokes. Then the Horn of Gondor breaks the silence in triumph. The banner of the stewards is unwrapped from the top of the White River Bridge. The primal cry of victory that follows begins with Boromir, his sword held high in the air. For the cry grows until you inexorably join it. The sound of it, the exhilaration of it, vibrate the marble pillars around you. It is the sound of victory, older than the city, older than the river that runs through it. A claw of the enemy has been cut and it is retracted. He was repelled at Caer Andros, and his hold on Osgiliath has been broken. In the eyes of the men around you, you see the light of Númenor awoken. Gondor's first sons, Faramir and Boromir especially, are worshipped by the men like the Skyans of the old returned. It is a great day. That night, Lord Alcaron and Lord Faramir find you in the merry glow of the campfires. Alcaron is exhilarated and enthusiastic, Faramir reserved. "We won't stop here," Lord Alcaron exclaims, and points eastward to the darkness. "Tomorrow we follow them. We hunt them." He smiles and clenches his fist. "We don't stop until their black bones break on the mountains." Faramir sits by your fire, looking weary. "Our Lord Alcaron has convinced my brother we should pursue the enemy into Ithilien," he says calmly. He reaches for a stray stick and starts to rummage absently in the fire, his eyes distant. "We leave at first light." "Ithilien will be ours again." Alcaron doesn't let Faramir's solemn demeanor reduce his spirit. "We'll be at Sauron's doorstep rather than he on ours." Faramir glances at the excited nobleman, visibly uncomfortable with the enemy's name spoken so casually. Alcaron doesn't seem to notice. "We'll hold the southern road. We'll bleed him." He grabs Faramir's shoulder, and whom better to take and hold that realm than the one who knows it best? Alcaron smiles at Faramir, hoping to recruit his enthusiasm. Faramir doesn't bite. "This goes against my advice," Faramir says, "but my brother wills it, so I go." He tosses the stick into the flames and rises, eyes still on the fire. "Gondor owes you a great deal, friends of Gandalf," he says, his eyes meeting yours. "I cannot ask you for more than what you've already given." For the first time this evening, his lips turn to a faint smile. "But I would be honored of your company once more, should you grant it." Faramir nods as he leaves. "I ride at early dawn." He steps beyond the light of your fire, and you soon lose sight of him in the labyrinth of campfires that surround Osgiliath this night. Lord Alcaron claps his hands once and stands, his smile wide. "I ride with Faramir and his rangers tomorrow." He pats each of you on the shoulders and follows Faramir, his request unsaid. It wasn't a difficult decision. You soon find yourselves in the darkness before dawn, assembling with Faramir's men at the eastern edge of the city. As the first band of light grows above the mountains of shadow, Alcaron notices you. He grins and winks an enthusiastic welcome. Moments later, the column of rangers begins to move, Faramir at its head. Once again, you are heading east, into darkness and danger.
Alright, well, with that covered, any final thoughts, Matthew, about the Assault on Osgiliath scenario?
Yeah, this isn't one I've played too much, but I must say the few times I've played it, it feels like a breeze. Longtime players of the Lord of the Rings, the card game, sort of have figured out that FFG's difficulty ratings are almost arbitrary. This one happens to be an 8, and there's just no way that this feels like an 8. I've certainly heard players say they've had first turn wins, and then I've heard players say they go on for 20 rounds. It kind of just depends on how and when these locations are revealed. So certainly we got lucky that we weren't revealing Osgiliath after Osgiliath location. I think we were pretty smart and strategic with our starting enemies and starting locations. They certainly fit for this deck. The resource one, let's see, which one is that? The Old Bridge is great for a leadership deck that happens to be running Steward of Gondor, but we certainly handled that just fine. So I'm sad that you didn't get to use the Black Arrow. That would have been fun. I had an Elrond's Council I kept forgetting to use to lower my threat. Not that we needed it, and we didn't need the willpower ever, which is how I kept forgetting it, but how to host a fun allies in my hand. But again, we had the willpower pretty well covered on my end, and you definitely had the defenses and attacks. So, honestly, I can't say this is a really fun scenario. The few times I've played it, it's just sort of been a dud. I like, of course, that they're trying something different. The control of the locations is kind of cool, though we didn't really see that endanger us too much given the shadows and the other things that we received. So, this isn't a quest that I would bust out of the box too often to play, I'm afraid to say, but I certainly didn't have a bad time playing it today.
Yeah, I definitely found it interesting. I like the fact that we were able to kind of custom tailor what enemies and locations we picked at the start based on the strengths of our deck. For example, both of our starting threats were relatively low. I think yours was 21 and mine was 28. So picking enemies with engagement cost 40, knowing that we wouldn't have to stomach that wind revealed effect, knowing that you had willpower so covered, it was just not an issue. So we did end up getting that location where you have to pour resources into it, but of course I made the mistake of not fully reading the card and not realizing that it was half as expensive as I thought it was. So I thought that was going to be a total roadblock for us. That of course did not end up being the case. I was very surprised it took us as long as it did to accumulate extra actions during combat, but I guess you were committing so many heroes to the quest. I had so much defending to be doing. It's just that this quest can be wildly inconsistent. So just like you said, there are going to be times when you have an amazing playthrough, there are going to be times when you just get stomped into the dirt. It could have just as easily boiled down in this game to the very first turn we reveal that Orc Vanguard with its 8 attack, Baragond with 6 defense defends, and then the shadow card is Orc Arbalesters and he's killed right off the bat. So that would have made this scenario an absolute nightmare. I think if that happened, we probably wouldn't have been able to push through like we did, but in the Progression Series, we put a lot of thought and effort into, at least theoretically thought and effort into designing these decks. I feel like this direct damage thing worked out great. It was almost exhilarating being the combat player for once, seeing all those damage tokens falling on the enemies. I put Swift Strike in this deck hoping that we were going to pull in a Haradrim Elite, and exactly that happened. So it was super cool. I had a good time. Again, I'm a little bit biased because this is the first time I've played this scenario. This is the second game of LOTR I've played in almost half a year, so I suppose, as always, I'll just say it's very good to be back. I did like this scenario. I feel like it was a tad easy. I'm glad that we didn't end up getting location locked, where every turn it's a wimpy enemy and another Osgiliath location, so the pacing felt pretty good this time, but I definitely could see it going either way in other playthroughs.
Yeah, the Blood of Gondor I played a few times, our next adventure pack, so I'm certainly looking forward to that one. The Morgul Vale is also a great one, so this one's one of the low points for me for the cycle, but certainly it was a blast to play a deck that I don't normally play, Mono Spirit, and I'm looking forward to deck building for our next scenario.
Oh, and you did so much in this video, too. But in any case, I suppose we might as well wrap this video up. So as always, thank you guys for checking out the first entry in the Progression Series in a long time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button. Since we're starting a brand new channel, those subscriptions are more appreciated than ever before. Feel free to leave a comment if you happen to notice another error that Matthew and I maybe made, or share your own play experiences through Assault on Osgiliath. I think the latter comments are a little bit better to read, but thank you guys for watching. Next up is going to be our player card review for the Blood of Gondor, so we'll see you again soon.
Wait, one resource instead if there's another Osgiliath location in the staging area. So we've been playing this wrong.
Oh, have we really?
Yes.
Shit.